Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you so much for joining tonight on Talk and Sip. This Saturday night, 26th of March, 2022. Welcome, welcome. And of course, the first thing you do when you come in, what we say is whatever you're drinking, let us know what you're drinking. I'm just drinking some water here now for now, and I'll have some wine later. Uh, what someone said to me today is that when you join in, what you should do is to let us know what you're drinking. Doesn't have to be alcohol, anything, but most importantly, you are to take a picture and send it in. And then the next week or so, when we're on the show, we will flag up a couple of persons who are there. If you can take a picture as well. I want to thank those who are coming in on Instagram, those who are coming in on Facebook as well, and on YouTube. And remember to like and share as much as possible. Tonight, the main topic, we always have our main topic, but we talk about different things, but our main topic will be the Jamaica steps away to republic status. You may have been aware that Prince William and Kate was in Jamaica of recent days, and it's been international that they have been snubbed, that there have been demonstration, that the Queen is rejected, and that she must go about her business as much as possible. There are different views, but I want to take it away from the fluff and take it away from the gesture politicking tonight, and somehow to have guests and discussion as to what are the pros and the cons, if anything, of republic status. Maybe a bit about reparations, but most importantly, to have an intelligent discussion. You know, and that is what I want to do tonight. You know, Anil, good evening. How are you doing, sir? You're on mute. You're on mute, Anil? I think you're on mute. I think you're muted. No? Can't hear you. You can hear me though, Anil, yeah? Okay. All right. Let's go back out and come. Earpiece. You're not hearing an earpiece? You want to go out and come back in? Okay. Okay, go and come back in. Yeah, okay, no problem. Okay, yeah. So let me just see something here. Anil? No. Okay. Let's wait for Anil to come back. Yeah, so it's having the sort of discussion in regards to this whole situation. The steps towards being a republic. The steps towards does it need as a government? One of the things is that as a government got all the numbers in Parliament to do it, what's the steps? Should there be a referendum or not? What about the final Court of Appeal, if anything? Would it be Caribbean Court of Appeal, Caribbean Court of Justice, or whatever like that? You know, the Privy Council will be removed. Do we trust our legislator? Let me see if Anil is back. Yeah, you sound right. Yep. No, what's going on? That's strange there. It's never normally happened on Anil, isn't it? Is were you talking to Putin or something like that? You haven't got an earpiece now, do you? See, let me see something. Anil, yeah. Try your phone. You want to try your phone? If anything, you want to try your phone, Anil? Yeah. Try again. Try again. Try again. Yeah. Okay. So let's see if Anil can come back in. Um, yeah, yeah. So that's what we want to talk about. I was hoping to have gotten um, Miss Lisa Anna, if anything, but she's not able to attend. Well, I don't know. She may come in. She's got all the details, if anything like that. And but definitely, I've got Matunda uh, Killer, who is here tonight. And if I got his name wrong or said it wrongly, he will definitely correct me as well. Matunda was the public defender in Jamaica, acting public defender, and is a barrister in the UK. So he's going to be speaking with us tonight about that. The other thing also is that we still have the Putin war, which is going on. That is something which is on the horizon in the UK. We still have COVID, which is also on the increase. Today was a really beautiful day in the UK, I must say. Very beautiful day. Sun is shining and all those sort of things. I even washed the cars today as well. So that was really a fantastic day. But I'm gonna bring in Matunda, and I'll see if Anil can come back later because I want to really get this going, and then the other team and other person will come in a bit later as well. So here we go. Hey, Matunda.
Hi, good evening, Sid. How are you?
Ah, okay. Well, I was thinking that maybe it was something on my side, but sometimes we got these glitches as well. Did I get your name? Did I pronounce your name properly?
Yes, you said Matanda Makula. That's fine. Thank
I
you.
did it right. Okay.
Yes, respect.
Yeah. I like to always get these things right. So how are you doing today, sir? How are you doing?
As you said, it was a beautiful day, so I'm smiling. The sun was shining in the UK, so
Yes. Nah,
I'm,
nah.
I'm always happy when the sun comes out to kiss me.
Yeah, the sun is a beautiful thing, you know. But listen, as let's go straight into the chase because we had a visit. We are in the UK now, and we had a recent visit by the Prince William and Kate traveling the Caribbean hemisphere, 3 nations, 3 days in Jamaica, and the Queen Jubilee or Platinum Jubilee, if what it is, and somehow saying thank you. And of course, the poignant topic which came up, which always comes up all the while for over the years, and even when I was part of the Jamaican diaspora organization going to Jamaica, I always talk about Jamaica moving its away from a republic status. You do recall these things, isn't it? It's like a
Yes,
deja vu.
yes, yes.
What's your take on all of this, Matunda?
Well, I think history is usually the place to start.
Yes.
Um, the calls for delinking from the monarchy, called republicanism, really started even prior to us attaining independence. I
Mm.
think there was some meeting at the University College at the time
Yes.
on this issue, and but most recently, in well, let's just say 1995, there was a joint select committee of the Jamaican Parliament, by which
Mm.
I mean both houses of Parliament had a committee that looked at this issue, and they agreed. The overwhelming decision or view of the committee that looked at this was that Jamaica should move from having the Queen as its head of state to having a Republican government, i.e., Jamaica should abolish the Queen as its head of state and
Yes.
move to a Republican system. Now, the that's 1995. We're in 2022,
Mm.
and there's persons who say that actually we need to take a new look at this, having regard to the fact that that's literally a generation ago,
Mm.
and the current generation who are first-time voters, none of them were alive at the time,
Yeah.
and perhaps their view, having regard to the future, should be taken, and so we should discard what was arrived at by the joint select committee and sort of look at the thing fresh.
Yeah.
But it is important to note that both political parties in Jamaica, main political parties, do agree that we should move away from the Queen as head of state. The disagreement, or the point at which they cannot and have not been able to agree on so as to go forward with it, was the
Mm.
type of, once you remove the Queen, what will you replace her with? Effectively, there are two choices that
Yes.
are on the table. One, do you have a sort of ceremonial president, because it's a president who will now replace the Queen? Do you have a ceremonial president, as they have done in Barbados, or do you have an executive president? Or executive president?
Yeah. Can you just pause 1 second
Yeah.
there when you say executive president? O'Neill?
Hey, I am back. I'm not sure. I do have a new computer, so it could be some of that. So I'm on my phone, but it's all good.
It's all good. Fantastic. O'Neill,
Yeah.
Matunda, O'Neill is one of my co-hosts here, regular
Mm-hmm.
on the show here. And O'Neill is aware of this discussion, and he will come in at different points. O'Neill, you want to say anything first before Matunda continue?
No, let Matinda
Yeah.
continue. Great to meet you. Look
Hi.
forward to discussion.
Yeah. And what are you drinking by chance, Matunda? we should have always secured that position first.
Actually, today there's two things: it's soursop and moringa tea is
Yeah.
what I'm drinking, and then I have some champagne for later.
And Matunda, I didn't ask you.
Well, I got something called Jinga. It's an alcoholic beverage,
Yes.
but I'm still okay. It's from the Iberian world.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm drinking the typical red wine and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, let us know what you're drinking as well. Daniel, thank you for coming on. Too many don't even understand the very reality of the state of Jamaica. The scam is the PNP of Jamaica accepting a seat in the UK Privy Council. It started already, Matunda, the discussions. Okay. As you were saying, Matunda, I'm no
Yeah. So
limited time with you.
the choice that they have in terms of that we have is either the executive presidency or sort of Westminster presidency. Barbados has opted for the Westminster presidency, which effectively gives the president a ceremonial role in the affairs of state.
Yeah.
Those who sort of postulated and favored the executive type of presidency were saying, advanced the view that, well, what it will do is you give the president the power to appoint persons to the cabinet, persons who are not necessarily part of the parliament,
Yes.
a bit like what happens and obtains in America. And
Mm.
that would achieve the objective of ensuring, they say, that as opposed to what happens now, the cabinet member who is selected outside of the parliament won't necessarily have a parliament who naturally backs him or her. Because
Mm.
presently, everything that is proposed by cabinet, once you have the majority in the House of Representatives, the lower house, it's stamped, it's rubber stamped. But that's it. So us moving away from that, from the having the Queen as our head of state, um, we have a political problem that can be solved into if both parties, first and foremost, agree on the issue of the type of presidency. But
Mm.
beyond that, we have to recall that what the Constitution really says is that the issue has to be placed before the electorate, and if the majority of the electorate in a referendum. And what that really means is that of the a bill of the Jamaican Parliament has to be passed first and foremost. Well, the bill has to be presented to the Jamaican electorate, and if the majority says yay, then so be it. We move from having the Queen as a head of state to as long as you have 2/3 in the House, in Parliament, both houses of Parliament supporting that bill. then the bill can be presented to the electorate for a referendum. So the challenge that we have in Jamaica is that these things are susceptible to being politicized, and so before you get to the procedural aspect of it, the sensible thing I think that has to be done is that both political parties have to sit and work out and say, let's present a united front on this issue
Yes.
to the electorate, because both of them since 1995 have agreed. And you heard the Prime Minister in discussing with what's his name, Prince William, saying effectively, we want to move away from having your mother as a head of state,
Grandmother, yeah.
grandmother, sorry, as head of state. So and the PNP has always advocated a move away from that. So both parties agree. What they
And I always say also the UIC, which is the third political party, can be a cheerleader because they agree as well that they need
Yeah.
to be moving away as well. So
Yeah.
there's no opposition
No, there's
within the
really
parties. Structured.
no, there's no opposition. Interestingly, like in Barbados, prior to this latest round, in the 90s, Barbados was saying keep the Queen. We have never said that. No, we have never said that. And so the problem that we have is a political one that can be solved if both parties say to them to sit down and say the type of president or presidency that needs to be enacted, and once that is done, present the option to the voting public and let the voting public decide. I can't see in any way that the voting public would want to retain the Queen as head of state. People are more likely, I've found, to want to retain the Privy Council, but are willing to throw the Queen overboard.
I saw something that said Jamaica already started the process of removing the Queen. This was in the Independent as head of state, and we'll continue to work on this once the royal visit is over. Political sources have told the Independent, and they said a senior figure within the government has been appointed with the primary aim of seeing the nation transition to republic status. They added. Do you know anything about that? Sorry, Anil. Yeah.
So,
Anil, yeah.
So I agree what you just stated, Matunda, around disagreement. So if you sort of look at the history, right, during the 1962 and the crafting of the Constitution, there was a big push then to move. Then Bustamante and Manley decided against that because the Queen at the time was pretty popular in Jamaica. Subsequent to that, over the years, you're absolutely right. Both political party has campaigned on the fact that they're going to sort of remove the Queen as the head of state. But I do believe the bit that's missing, I think we all talk about we should have parliamentary sort of sit down and think through and sort of agree to move forward. To me, the bit that's missing is whoever currently the Jamaica Labour Party need to explain to the Jamaican people what it means to move away from the Queen. And somehow I haven't seen that bit yet. We've heard discussion, we've heard talks. I believe the current administration during their election cycle talk about it's going to be a priority. But I don't believe if you ask, they call it a man in the street, what it means. I don't believe any party has sat down and explained that, right? I think there's a lot of emotion that is attached to this issue. But in my opinion, if you talk to the Jamaican people around what are the implications, what are the pros and cons, I think there's going to be a buy-in. The bit around whether the type of president, I do believe, in my opinion, you will see a ceremonial president just like the likes of Barbados. I don't believe they'll go the other option. I'd be surprised if they do, but I do believe, they need to sort of articulate it to the Jamaican people what it meant. You mentioned the Privy Council. What does it mean? I think it was PJ, his administration, right, tried to move Jamaica to the Caribbean Court of Justice. Right. So I think those are the thing I would add to Matunda to say, yes, I think both party is going to agree, but I don't believe anyone has sat down and explained to the Jamaican people exactly what it means.
Matunda, what's your take on that bit there?
Yeah, it's important that people know first and foremost what it is that the Queen, who's represented by the Governor General, how, in what sense she has any power, if any, in the context of Jamaica. People, I agree with the brother that people do not know the role of the let's use say loosely the Governor General in our Constitution. You have two schools of thought. One which says, well, it's just purely ceremonial, and another that says, well, it's important. Well, I tend to say that it's principally ceremonial, and you can overstate the role that they play, but it's an important role. For example, one of the things that we note is that the Jamaican Parliament, which consists of the Queen, the Senate, and the House of Representatives, yeah, that's the Jamaican Parliament.
Yeah.
The executive power is reposed in the Queen, and of course, there are other officers of the cabinet that can carry out that function, and in real terms, that's what happens. Then the judiciary, again, we know, is to the Queen, Her Majesty in Council. So there's a role that's been played. Don't let us not forget that it is the Governor General who appoints the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition, because the Constitution tells us that the person who can command the support of the party that has a majority within the House of Representatives becomes a Prime Minister. The Governor General appoints that person who has the support of the minority party within the House of Representatives becomes the leader of the opposition. Therein, that's the Queen stroke the Governor General playing a function. But let us not overstate that role. And I think I'm borrowing here from one of the sort of approaches that Professor Stephen Vassiani has taken, which is he's effectively argued that just look at it in real terms. Which Governor General is gonna not appoint the person, irrespective of what personal preference they might have? They will have to appoint the person who the electorate has, who the party has elected as the leader.
Well, it's a part of convention, isn't it? Just like similar
Yeah.
to the United,
Yeah.
like the UK with
Yeah.
the Queen would not go again. But I want to just bring in this bit here, the point that O'Neill mentioned about the people being aware. Um, well, you said it. You said it, Matunda, that people are more aware now than 1962.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but the key thing is what are how long this process can take place, because it is good for the Prime Minister to stand up there and say to Prince William and Kate that, hey, this is what we want to do and we're going to do that. People somehow may leave with this impression that he has to ask them permission. They don't need to ask them a permission or something like that.
Oh no.
Can I add a bit to that also, Silburn, as you're thinking about it, Matunda, is right. I keep going back to we need to explain to the people, because I would argue that most of the political class in Jamaica have a sense. What are the monetary? Because I was trying to find. So currently, you have the Governor General. His spot is at King's House. As I understand it, currently there's rumination that comes from the Queen's Fund, or whatever they call it, that gets into the hands of the Governor General for his staff and so forth. And just to foot stomp on the bit that Silburn talked about in terms of what is the process, because I then go back to, sort of what is the people are going to vote on for a referendum. Because to me, before you get there, you have to explain exactly what that means.
Yeah, I mean the bill. It's literally a bill that the Constitution requires let's call it loosely, the government has to put to the people. Now there's a sort of special procedure that presented bill has to go through. In a nutshell, the Constitution makes it clear that in terms of the time between the first presentation of the bill and its first reading, a period of 3 months has to pass, and then another 3 months has to pass for it. So it's been built for that bill to be seriously debated. It's not a bill that you can present today and tomorrow morning it becomes law. A significant period has to pass for that to happen. And the content of that bill is influenced, again, I say, by the discussions that will take place between both parties. But I agree with the brother 100% that it's about how much we inform the people of Jamaica as to what this really means. Because there's a lot of stories about it. I mean, the Governor General is the person within our constitutional order who is paid first every month. If nobody else is paid, he or she has to be paid. So I'm not sure if that's where people are getting this idea from about the money point. But
let's just welcome to Lester and Jody. Jody, hi. Lester, hi. How are you guys doing? Good. Lester, your audio is okay?
Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah. Matunda, that point there about, were we talking about the Queen, the Commonwealth paying over to the Queen or something like that? What was that? What was said a while ago? Did I get something wrong?
Sorry. I'm saying to you that nothing of the sort occurs or takes place. Nobody's going to be a member of any such grouping. Just let's not forget how the Commonwealth came about. This was Britain trying to retain as much as possible some influence, because the Second World War meant that it had to lose its colonies. It was no longer financially viable. But there's a power dynamic there. It had to wanted to keep these groupings of countries effectively still in an association, and they presented themselves with the Commonwealth, but nobody pays any money over to the Queen. And that would be too much.
So Montuna, I have a follow-up, as you just mentioned the Commonwealth. So let's just theorize that Jamaica, Barbados, and eventually there's a domino effect where islands and other places follow suit. What does that mean for the Commonwealth?
No, you can still be a member of the Commonwealth and still be a republic. India, Pakistan, certainly at the time of their independence. Trinidad and Tobago is a republic. It's still a member of the Commonwealth. Guyana, which is perhaps, let's loosely say Guyana is in the Caribbean, even though we know it's not. But when Guyana became independent in '66, there was built in their constitution, something I found through research that's so radical at the time. They gave themselves 3 years to leave the monarchy. And you could not go beyond that to have the monarchy. They gave themselves 3 years. And Forbes Burnham, for all his sins that he committed, he ensured that took place. So being and they remain a member of the Commonwealth. This perception that somehow if you become a republic, you cannot be a member of the Commonwealth is a misunderstanding. It's a misunderstanding.
And just to add to that point there, because I did some research, and it says each Commonwealth national country is a fully independent sovereign nation. Membership in the Commonwealth is voluntary. Is no longer even called the British Commonwealth. It's just a community of nations with related history. They do have to pay dues to the Commonwealth itself to cover the organization expense. That the Commonwealth Secretariat, but the dues do not go to the British government.
Yeah, it's like the UN.
Yeah,
Where the
yeah. I think we'll go before Matimba go. This is the point I'm trying to work out, and if you can give some timeline. So you say there's a need for a 2/3 majority, which will not be a problem for this present administration and the support of the opposition, right? In principle.
Well, it won't be a problem. It's
Yes.
a 2/3 majority of
2/3.
both houses. Right,
Yes.
both houses.
Senate.
Sorry, and I can't see, based on the mathematical composition of the JLP, let's call it loosely the JLP, everybody's going to support that. The PNP will support that because remember that since 1995, both parties do agree that we should move away from having the Queen as our head of state. The issue, as O'Neill pointed out, is the sort of the political aspect of it. What will replace it? What do we have a Westminster type presidency, or let's call it a Barbados type presidency, or do we have an executive sort of American type presidency? Not that we're going to elect on a president per se. And just to add to that, there's this issue of how will we elect appoint a president? The problem, or the issue that was discussed in 1995 was, well, if the prime minister nominates the candidate to be president, how do we now vote in Parliament on this? Do we have both houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives, sitting together, and we have 2/3 of both houses, or do we have both houses sitting separately? Remember, in our constitutional order arrangement, we always say the Senate is independent of the House of Representatives.
Yeah.
So if you have both sitting and voting as a block, purist says that undermines the independence of the Senate. My view, both houses should sit. If the prime minister nominates, both houses should sit and you vote. It's one of those things that I personally just think that they need to get on with. And the final point I'll make is, you can still get rid of the Queen as your head of state, but still be having your final, having the Privy Council as your final court of appeal. Yeah, but people in the Eastern Caribbean had linked it. Certainly in St. Vincent, I can't remember when that referendum was, and Ralph Gonzalez, he lost that because they linked it. In Jamaica, we don't have to do that.
So Martin, I'll just follow up because I think I mentioned, or you might mention, if you go back to 1980, every political party in Jamaica has called for this. In your opinion, do you think it's because some of the process things that you just mentioned, it's sort of hard to work out, and you have to put work in coming up with a model that, ensure that there's no sort of clash? Because to the point you just made around the appointment of the president, that could be very political, right? And that could impact governance. Do you think that's one of the reasons, sort of folks have kicked the can down the road? Because doing that hard work takes mind to think about the implication and the larger sort of context in terms of governance.
Yeah, yes, I agree with that. But credit must be given where it is deserved. This government, I've seen as appointed in the last 2 months or so, the Marlene Malahou Fort as let's call it loosely Constitutional Affairs Minister or Legal Affairs Minister.
Yeah.
And I think part of her brief is to bring about the sort of legislation that needs to be taken to Parliament to bring into fruition.
So she's a person then. She's a senior.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Because when that ministry was created,
yes,
People were wondering why, since you have a justice minister and you now have a legal affairs minister, and it was explained that her job is to push through the constitutional reforms that have been overdue. So when I hear the prime minister 2 or 3 days ago speaking to William and saying, "Listen, this is what's going to happen," I'm sure that he was thinking in the back of his mind, I have a minister who's working on this. So they're sort of kicking the can down the road, sort of thing. I don't imagine that on the issue of removing the Queen that it will keep happening. It might happen where it comes on to the Privy Council.
Lester or Jody, any question you want to put to Matunda before? Yes, skip the loop.
I was just thinking earlier when he said that what we replace it with. Somehow, I guess in my mind, we've always been republic. Both parties are. It's just of constitution, as he said. But do we need to replace it with something that already exists, or do we need to find a system that works perfectly for Jamaica and just do that instead of having to replicate something other countries have done?
That's a very good point, and I want to echo what Jody said. Do we have to follow the typical? Can we create? Do we have to have a president? Why don't we just have the prime minister only?
I mean, you don't have to do it, but let us not lose track.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that we have inherited and we have practiced a system where we have two political parties in a small country, you tend to want to have a so-called independent person to assist in the key appointments,
Yes.
for example. And so it is not a case that you have to follow any other nation, but the constitutional history, certainly within the Commonwealth, has shown us that it's always good to have those an independent person. Now, Guyana, go back to Guyana, and the system that they have there effectively has sort of merged the presidency with what you and I understand as a prime minister. Yeah, that's a model that, depending on who you speak with in Guyana, will tell you that it has worked, and their divisions are not just political; their divisions are racial. But I don't think we have to. But the constitutional history within the Commonwealth shows that it's one of the ways that it's one of the tools, I should say, that you use to ensure that there's a level of independence in the appointments process to key public offices. For example, the Prime Minister advises presently the Governor General on who should become the Director of Public Prosecution, but the Prime Minister has to consult with the leader of the opposition in Guyana. If the leader of the opposition doesn't agree on appointments, for example, to the Supreme Court, or I think they call it the Court of Chancery there, you have a situation, certainly last year, where there wasn't a Supreme Court Chief Justice in Guyana. I'm not sure we want to do that. That leads to gridlock. But to answer directly, I think we still need a president, and it's not hard to work out how we should do it. I don't believe in ceremonial presidents, personally. I don't believe in that.
So the ceremonial part is what Barbados want. That is what we don't want.
Yeah, I don't believe in those things.
And I would think, Silver, I theorize one of the reason Barbados went that route, it was the easier route in terms of creating a ceremonial position versus, really put in sort of the thought around, to Montunan's point, what works for Barbados. I think if you look at the timeline from when it was announced, it was pretty, I think, over a year time before it sort of took hold. So that's my opinion on it. Mutuna, I don't know if you have any thoughts on it.
Yeah, because Barbados, as I said earlier, in the 90s, they had said, no, we're going to retain the Queen. And then, I mean, let's face it, Mary Motley is not necessarily someone who is very shy at putting forward her position.
Yes.
She has the majority. I mean, the difference in the constitutional arrangement is that they did not require a referendum. Yeah, and that does make things much easier when you don't have to do that. But again, I say we don't need to worry too much about that, because all that is required is for both political parties to say this is what we're going to put to the populace, and both of us are going to campaign to say yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Matunda, I'm going to let you go. We've gone over your time schedule, isn't it?
Yes, but not a problem.
Actually,
It's always good to have these good discussions.
Actually, I just heard the campaign slogan, "Say yes."
and also I was thinking as well that with the reparation, we have to go into this with you, Matunda, with the reparation debate which is going on, is it better for us to stay in while the reparation debate is going on to ensure that it's done? Because once you're out, it's a bit more difficult to deal with it.
No, because the reparations debate is not premised on I'm still your son,
Yes,
or your daughter, so you need to pay me. It's premised on the historical wrong that has been done.
yes,
So I don't need to be living in your house
yeah.
for you to pay me.
Okay.
But Sylvian, before Matilda go,
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
we have seen in the recent past where the NIDS bill was being debated and being tabled and created, and it was a joint select committee that did it. And when it was being tabled in the parliament, there was a big hullabaloo and big difference in opinion on this bill. And this is a simple bill. Our two parties have and in lesser years now have different ideologies. We have seen more of a like-mindedness now of the both parties, but still there's some differences. This
Well, but sorry.
Matilda
Matunda.
okay, sorry, speaks very eloquently and easily that all you need is this, knowing the history and the tendencies of both parties. This is not going to be as easy or seamless thing to push through the parliament or the Senate, the Senate. And for me, from what I am hearing from my connections, right? We will be very surprised that a lot of people want to retain the Queen.
Well, let me start with the last point. There hasn't been any vocal advocacy in Jamaica for the retention of the monarchy, as opposed to a vocal advocacy for the retention of a peace to the Privy Council. And there's a reason for that. One, in my view, people don't give a damn if the Queen is at the head of the state. And
True.
I think in the last 20, 30 years, people have understood the sort of incongruence between having someone sitting over in the UK as your head of state, and every 20 years they come and visit you. Nobody wants the Queen. There's a reason why there hasn't been any advocacy to retain in Jamaica. Back to your NIDS bill point. Remember, the first time when the NIDS bill was presented, it didn't go through a joint select committee. It didn't, and the Supreme Court struck it down. That was what the PNP was telling the Jamaica Labour Party at the time, that they should present the bill to a joint select committee so that the difficulties can be worked out. They didn't do that. The court struck it down. Now that the bill has gone through a joint select committee, no problem. All the necessary amendments have been made.
Right.
Our politicians our leaders can work together on this issue of removing the monarchy, because there is just not that appetite in Parliament to keep the Queen. There's just nobody's brave enough to stand up in Parliament to say, I want the Queen to stay as head of government. The Jamaican Labour Party's constitution, certainly between independence and sometime in the 90s, had said, effectively, I'm paraphrasing now, that it will always advocate retention of the monarchy. That has been thrown out of the Jamaican Labour Party's constitution, and that was done for a particular reason. They no longer believe that stuff. So I understand why it is that you have that sort of skepticism, but on this particular issue, I'm not so sure that skepticism is something that's justifiable.
So on a follow up to that,
Yeah.
I believe I saw a poll, and again, I didn't look at the data behind the poll, and I believe it says 55% for removing, but then there's a 45%, right? Which was, in my opinion, was closer than I thought. And again, I didn't look at the data, so I don't know behind the scene what the data says or what the questions were asked. What are your thoughts then? Let's just theorize that the Parliament, the Senate is going to be in agreement 2/3. Now you have to take it to the people. What do you believe the sentiment of the people would be? Because I'm not sure the majority in a referendum is 2/3. What's the referendum?
There's a majority.
A majority, 51% for
majority.
Okay.
Yeah. But you need 2/3 of the House to present the bill to that is going to go to the referendum. Let us not forget how our population vote. Our people vote mainly based on what their party tells them to vote.
That's true. It's a good point.
And if both parties can get behind this, and I don't see a reason why they can't, I think that 45% is most likely will evaporate. It's too close. I agree. I haven't seen that particular research. Now, again, the question that was asked, because a lot of persons, when you ask them when they present this topic of removing the Queen as head of state, they also put on that paper abolishing appeals to the Privy Council. And when you do that, you confuse the issue and you get responses that you might not necessarily have gotten if you've just presented the removal of the Queen as the single
So
issue.
someone is conflated again.
Yeah. And we see what happened in the Eastern Caribbean. I think it was in St. Vincent when both were twinned, and people voted against it because some people somehow have this strong allegiance to the Privy Council, even though they will never ever have a case in court. Even though they also have not spent any time looking at the decisions of the Caribbean Court of Justice. But that's a debate for a different night.
Matunda, listen, I want to thank you so much for joining. You could stay forever with us, but I want to be respectful, so you can leave. But if you don't leave, we'll still keep you.
Listen, thank you very much for having me. And I've left. I'm not intoxicated. I've left something for.
Cheers, Matunda. Thank you so much for joining. You know what I mean?
Not a problem, man. Good night, everyone, or good evening, wherever you are. Bye bye.
Okay, guys, how are you doing? Very, very, very interesting discussion, isn't it? Jody, you're there? Jody's frozen.
Yeah. Lester.
I am here.
Okay. Good.
I just know something is freezing.
What's your take on? Yeah, that's right. We can hear you. Let's reset the room now. Very interesting discussion. I must say, very proper discussion on this topic, because there's so many different sounds. I mean, while I'm even here now, people are sending me discussions about Lisa Hanna snubbing Kate, and I just think that lots of those things are really what should I say, distractions from the bigger picture. The media, international media, try to find things to sort of sell their newspapers. The key newspapers which has been bringing this out are papers which we are aware of in the UK have a particular trend as how they do. But let's go back to Matunda. Do you see a timeline with this, Anil, as to when Yeah, I should have asked Matunda if you see a timeline like, can this be done by in 2 years, 1 year?
I do believe his point around the appointment of the lady, I forgot the name he mentioned a couple months ago.
Yeah,
I think that's going to
yeah,
I think that will dictate the timeline, right?
yeah,
Because obviously, you're not seeing behind the scene the workings, right? The select committee and what bill has been marked up. So it all depends on and when, and I'm not sure because the prime minister hasn't come out and say I have given this
yeah.
office a year or 6 months to get a bill so we could debate in front of parliament. So I think that first process step, which could take 6 months, it could take a year, right? Because I do believe there are other important topics that the Jamaican government should prioritize over this one. I would say if I look at top 10, there should be 9, right? Given some of the other things that are going on in Jamaica. But for me, a timeline, it could be a year, it could be 2 years. I would believe, though, Silburn, my thinking, if Andrew, the Prime Minister Holness, stated a couple of days ago that we're moving, I believe the election is up in 3 years. Constitutionally, he has to call election in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
I do believe he'll try to do that before, right? So I would say the timeline could be 2 years, but I do believe the prime minister will try to get it before the next election.
Yes, yes. It's interesting the bit about Malahoo Fort being in that position there. Can we say unless one is in the know, was aware? Jody, I put it to you. Were you aware that Malahoo Fort was positioned to do this transition process?
I mean, it would be logical, all right? Because in my research, for this evening, I found that or Andrew Holness did declare this from last year, December, that we would become republic. The prince and the duchess didn't just plan to come to Jamaica a month ago. Their itineraries are made from months before. So we don't see behind the scenes of what's being discussed in Parliament a lot of times, in different sector meetings and so on. And I believe if they recognize that something is coming, they would have put plans in place in order to make this transition way easier. And the transition did not start on this visit. So if we're looking at it in perspective of how they're planning a leadership move, this was in the making from last year or years before, but put into action. The action plan was put into place from late last year. So the evidence is there. It's in the media that he did say that we would become republic. And I know that with that would come certain actions, which would include this visit and everything that follows after the visit. The visit is just like an opening the door to say, okay, we've been doing this, but I want you all to see that we're serious. So this is it. And now they're putting the plan of action into motion.
Yes, that's very true, Jody. But to take it a step further, in 2006, when Bruce Gordon was campaigning, he did mention this, that he wants to transition from the monarch. And it is very well known, the persons who are engaged in active politics, that you don't have to be under the monarch to be a part of the Privy Council or the Commonwealth. Andrew Holness have been echoing this, that he wants to move on from 2011. He echoed it again in 2016. So it's not just a recent thing. It's going to take some time, as I said. And Motondo, his name is?
Yeah, Matunda, yes.
Motondo was correct in saying that no MP is going to stand up in Parliament and say that we want to retain the Queen. However, privately, a lot of MPs, a lot of persons, they don't care, or they would, if they could, they would have opted to retain the monarch. And then the wider Jamaican people, they don't care. Them really not care. Um, but it is for me. I don't see it as an a pressing issue. It is persons who are more affluent, persons who are more academically inclined, persons of a certain ilk are having these discussions. When you really go underground, people underground are not really either or either. They don't really care. There are other more important survival issues that they are more akin to.
If
I
I,
would,
yeah, sorry, go
um,
ahead. Yeah.
I would use a different term. I think it's generational. If I had asked my grandmother or the older generation, they have more sentimental attachment to the Queen than you and I, or I would opine others of our generation, because they grew up with the Queen. I remember when the Queen came to Jamaica, I forget the last time, there were thousands upon thousands of people that lined the road to see the Queen, right? I think as the generation sort of aged out, folks like my grandmother has gone. I think the younger generation, they have no affinity to the monarch or the queen, and I think you're seeing that in terms of the narrative. But I would surmise, if you go back to sort of the debate in 1962, one of the reasons Bustamante and Norman push it out is because the popularity of the queen then was huge, right? So I would say, in my opinion, it's generational. If you ask maybe someone in their 80s, they probably have more sentimental and emotional attachment to the queen than you and I.
This other bit here, there's Kate and Harry there. Kate and William. I keep saying Harry. Many people keep saying Harry. I should have been the one, but do you think that
Harry's not a working royal?
yeah, Harry's not a working royal. He's a working American guy. Easy. Huh? Do you think that? Do you think that the way the British media here criticize the way how the Prime Minister, they say, hijacked the Queen grandson, even though he's a senior royal, there. It is like it wasn't called for so publicly. I don't know what you guys think about that, and I'll wait to hear what persons say.
So I could start. There's two bits to it, I believe. One is what you stated in your opening monologue. It's all clickbait. It's selling newspaper, right? If Kate and William had come back to the UK and had a great trip, it wouldn't sell any newspaper or newspapers, right? But there's they said pineapple represent hospitality in both the Jamaican culture and the British culture. Now, if I were in the Prime Minister's shoes, right, this bit would have been a private discussion, not a public discussion, because the reason for the visit is the celebration of the 75 years for the Queen, the Jubilee, as they call it. So to me, I think that one bit is taken out of proportion, because if you look at the totality of the visit, is a really good visit. Even the bit on Lisa, and you look at the bit on Babsy, right? If you look at it multiple different angles, you realize that each of the newspaper found three things that they could sell, because everyone is going to click on it, right? Yeah. So I do believe that's the case, right? Others might have different opinion, but I do believe also that, there are things that, whether we remove, which I think eventually will happen, and this bit, we have to be, as a country, more hospitable, right? And to me, the Prime Minister should have kept that a private conversation versus what he did in public, in my opinion.
Michelle Clark said they did not know how to read and write, so they got bamboozled. Can you explain that a bit more, Michelle? Marlon Barkley say, I didn't want to go to Marlon. Someone say, why not public? His stand should be known.
No, so it's not. So the reason for the visit, he has made public pronouncement that he's moving away from the monarch. That's not a debate. The debate is whether you should use it to overshadow a visit, regardless, right? Because it's regardless of whether we remove the queen or not, it's going to be part of our history, right? It's just like if you have someone coming over your house for, you name it, and you had some whatever, are you going to go in the public and announce what you and I are doing, Silver, or are you going to do it in private, right? So that's my own point.
Let's go further here. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's a genuine question. Isn't triggering an external relationship act merely just removing the crown from all mentions in our constitution only? I just want to know what becoming a republic brings or benefit Jamaica. One of the things the Prime Minister said, and I could play it, but anyway, he said very clearly that we are a resilient nation. We are moving forward to attain fullness. I always say that is breaking the queen away allows to become fullness, is getting reparations is the key to make us fullness. And we have fullness as we are now. I'm not arguing for keeping the queen or even against reparations or what. What is it? What is fullness? Jody, do you need the queen to go for you to get fullness? You need reparations to become fullness?
I'm not sure if I understand how to even put that into context. Honestly, I don't. Because for me, the change is needed in a way to, I think, mentally help us understand who we are away from the monarch. And I go back to what I said before. And I heard Matunda, I don't want to get his name incorrect.
Matunda, that's correct.
Matunda's answer to it, and he kept going back to what the Constitution says and what other countries do with that same Constitution. And it brings me back to a conversation we had a couple months ago. And this is why I understand to some extent Mr. Curry, because I understand his thinking and I understand the history from which he comes from. If it is that we are going to create something that is unique to us as a country and be independent, fully independent, or I should say republic, meaning we move away from everything, pertaining to the monarch, we should create a system that works for us and not necessarily adapt to the same constitution that comes off what we represented with the monarch. I'm not sure if I'm explaining it the way it's going in my head. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think you're saying you don't want to replicate the exact thing which is there just by changing the figureheads.
Exactly. Yes, because it's the same system. We're just changing the people who are in charge of the system, but we're still using the same system that was created by these people. So how is it that we've moved away if we're still using the same system?
So the way I look at it, Jody, is if you look at the, whether it's a constitutional monarch system or a parliamentary system, all of this came out of sort of the UK. If you go around the world, there's some form, the Australia, we in the US, if you look at it, there's just different version of it. I think, to Matunda's point, as we move away, the question would be what works for Jamaica in the sense that you don't have a logjam, right? He made a point around, the appointment of the presidency. That is going to be a really important process to really think through, because if you have logjam, that you could have issues in terms of parliamentary procedures and all that kind of stuff. So the two options they have is either a Westminster style or you have sort of a ceremonial style, which they would have to think through. And then if you think of it, the Constitution of Jamaica was developed with input, and I'm sure similar to other countries. So I think we could get something that's unique for Jamaica, but at the same time, just ensuring that we don't put ourselves in constitutional crisis, right? And I think that's the important piece.
So therefore, the big question is, and what Jody had alluded to earlier, and the person was saying, is that should Jamaica be creative? To be creative.
I mean, we have some comments here, Silburn, and I think they wanted us to read them because they.
No, I've said it. I cannot read all comments because sometimes comments are not in line with the flow. So, ladies and gentlemen, I need to let you know that as when one is monitoring a show, sometime somebody can make a comment from something recently or some point ago, and it will break the flow. So there's got to be a flow. So bear with me while I try to pull up some comments at times, but I cannot just pull comments just like that just because the comments are there. Persons can read the comments at the same time, but not all comments will be actually put up there at time. Yes, Onila was saying something here. I want to go into the next phase because there was another question which I had out there. Hi Vita, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great, thank you. Paul.
Yes, fantastic. How are you? Let's just do a quick reset and
Please.
I don't know if Vita is drinking her crown or something like that. You know?
Hey, wouldn't be stuck and sip without crown. Cheers.
And only have a cup like he's drinking certainty.
So soursop and moringa.
Soursop and moringa. Vita, before we get into will reparation becomes a reality, you've been on the sideline listening. What's your take so far based on what Matunda said, your observation?
Well, first let me say I am glad and I know that you're a very intelligent, articulated, affluent Black man. I'm not going to use African American, and I know that
of course
you have a certain class of the way that you would do stuff. But I must say, I really appreciate the Andrew Olney coming out and saying to the prince that, look, this is what we plan to do. Yes, he could have done it behind the scene, but this is something for the people of Jamaica who want to step away from the scene, to say, look, I'm saying it, I'm being transparent. So therefore I'm saying it to him so you can hear that I told him that this is what we are doing. And it wasn't asking for permission. It was telling him that's that we are doing. So that's how I look at it. That he could have done. And there's always a bigger picture. He probably have this conversation before with the prince and to say, these are some of the stuff that, we would like to discuss when you're here, because the people are asking for this, and therefore I want to, as a leader, this is where we're stepping to. So I think that's what I take away from him doing it in public. And so
you have to view, and I wouldn't be surprised as well. And trust me, I believe this could have happened, that the prince was even briefed from the UK to say these are the things you're going to come. Only is going to come. As it might be, then only will come. Maybe brief to a point to say, hey, you're going to get this, you're going to get that, but you're welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. That's what it's going to be like as a senior royal. O'Neill.
Right. I would put with O'Neill as the mindset that O'Neill's have, because I always admire the way that he thinks and talks. I know that O'Neill know that there is a bigger picture, and a leader from that level, at that level as a leader, you're not gonna go meet with the prince and you're gonna just pop something out of the blue on him like that. This is something that's have to discuss before. What are both advisors are gonna say? This is what is expected. This is what we will be talking about. So that was planned before. And it's just not something that he just blurt out.
No, and I don't disagree, because normally you have a briefing book and you sort of have topics. My overall point is, if you notice, that is essential focus, and maybe the Prime Minister planned it this way. I do believe if you look at the overall visit, even though there's a lot of noise around the visit, it was a positive visit, right? Yes. You notice the cultural aspect, him beating the drum, nobody's talking about that bit, right? we're focused on this point, and that my overall is that the trip is whether you agree or not to remove the monarch was a celebration of the Queen, 75 years, right? And if you look at so you just put that bit up. You notice most Western media is not showing that bit at all, right? And that was my point, is this is a celebration. And I think there's a lot of other things that actually overshadow it, because in that bit you're showing, I thought I heard William sort of speaking patois back to the guy.
I heard he said, "Show how to do this, man. Show me how to do
And then I'm like,
let me play. I'm sure I heard something like that. Like he said, "Show me how to do this." I don't know if I can get it back. Let me see if I can spin it back or something like that. Put it back in a loop. But anyway, Ollie, you're saying still,
yeah. But to me, that this should have been front and center, right? And that's my point, is that I don't disagree, but maybe the Prime Minister reasoning is that he wants to demonstrate to the people that it's part of the discussion he has, and he wants to make it public. But I thought there are very positive things that came about that is not in the media, and we're just talking about that one bit around moving away from the monarch.
Well, they're talking about Lisa. They're talking about Lisa snubbing him. Lisa snubbing thingy there, Kate again as well. And somebody, a picture. Somebody sent me that it is doctored. I'm going to show it to you guys, and you can tell me if it's doctored or what. It's like Kate look over, and Lisa was, guys, Kate look over, and I'm sure that's not what I saw. But but I want to bring up this point here that someone said. I definitely want to read this by Tony Royal. Tony Royal brought up this thing here, and I think it's very important. And Marlon also brought up something else, which we just need to plug up there. We might not have the answer. It's a politician trick Jamaica with a fake independence, and if we don't educate ourselves and know what a republic is, the politicians are going to trick the people again. Me and Motley have tricked the people of Barbados with a fake republic. And I do recall when we had our guest, Mr. Joseph Patterson of UIC, United Independent Congress, he did say that was a fake republic. That's what he said. Remember he used that sort of words? That's not a real thing, because it's like they just switch things and the constitution still remain the same. And then Marlon, and I follow on with Marlon Barkley. I just want to know what becoming a republic brings to Jamaica that is more beneficial than what we have now.
And Silburn, that's what we talk about, right? In the bit before, was that, right, more than just moving away, someone need to go explain to the Jamaican people what it really means, right? And I think that's the piece that's missing. We've talked about it for a long time, and I hope the Prime Minister will, or the opposition, whoever, will really address the people as we go down this journey. Here's what it means, right? Because the bit I said before, if I am the Prime Minister for a day, this is 10 in my priority. There are other things that Jamaican people cares more about than this bit, right? So to me, someone need to go explain to the Jamaican people. I cannot foot stamp that more, that we have to go do it. And maybe there's a plan, a place that we just don't know about.
Well, it depends on the people, Anil, because I want to tell you that, and I kind of missed a part of it. I think it was you who were saying that there are only some of Jamaicans that saying, yes, we want to move away from the Queen. And it's the younger generation that's doing that now. Because I want to tell you that I remember I have to learn how to courtesy or whatever when we in school in front of the Queen, if the Queen ever come to Jamaica. And I remember my grandmother, the Queen was like head of my household as far as the way we live. And most of my family live in England now. And this is huge, if you ever visit England, the first thing they're taking you to do is to go see the palace, because it's something that ruled the governance of Jamaica for a long time. So most of the older people don't really care to move away. And what is it going to benefit Jamaica if we do move away? What's the difference? Are we going to have less crime? Are we going to have the economy going to be better? What is it going to benefit that the government is focusing on this now instead of stopping the crime or feeding the poor people or educating the youth of Jamaica? What is this benefiting us Jamaicans?
Vita,
I'm thinking.
Vita, are you saying then that you are of the view that we need to keep the Queen?
I don't care one way or the other. I don't swing one way or the other. If they stay, they stay. If they go, but what is the benefit if we move away? I don't know that, and I would like to ask. So yes, O'Neill is correct when he said educate the people as far as if we stay, this is what continues. But if we move away, of course, in everything there's a pros and cons. What is the benefit? What do we have to do on our own now that the Queen is doing for us? As a matter of fact, what is the Queen doing for us now?
Queen is not doing nothing for Jamaica. That's the thing. The Queen's not doing nothing for Jamaica.
Nothing.
Now.
We don't pay any money. No tax go to the sovereign fund. All the queens, they get it from Silburn pays more to the Queen than anybody else.
I pay more to the Queen. I mean, the tax guy, our accountant called me the other day and said, Virgin, you need to do that thing, man. I get a penalty. You know? I'm paying to the Queen. I'm the one paying to the Queen.
Well, we are paying to somebody because right now, by April 15th, O'Neill and myself have to make sure we give the government what we work for.
But that is Biden.
Yes, I'm saying we all have to pay somebody.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is specific because I see people coming to me and saying that you guys need to know that your guys are paying to the Queen. And I did my research today and I went through it and I said, no, Commonwealth nation pay royalty to the British government? No, each is a fully independent sovereign nation. Membership in the Commonwealth is voluntary. The Commonwealth is no longer even called the British Commonwealth. It's just a community of nations with related history. The Queen is a nominal head of the Commonwealth, but the UK has no more power in the Commonwealth than any other member nation. They do have to pay dues to the Commonwealth Secretariat, like where my friend Patricia works, to cover the organization expenses, but the dues don't go to the British government. So everybody keeps saying that Jamaica is paying money to the Queen. No,
they're not. The only taxpayer money, and someone could correct, that I saw, and it doesn't go directly, is for the Governor General, his security and his housing. The Jamaican taxpayer pays that. There's nothing that get exfiltrated out to the UK from the Jamaican people that sort of pays for the Queen. Right, you, Silburn, you're the one paying for the Queen, not us.
Yeah.
Well, he's the one who chose to live in the Queen's country, so you got to pay.
Exactly. Be nice. You know what I'm trying to say? That's why I said you guys be nice to Harry and to.
Yeah. But the interesting and Vita brings up.
Sorry.
Vita brought up a great point. Is there are other things that Jamaican people are hurting for right now. Inflation, the petrol price or gas price, depending what word you use, are the highest we've ever seen. Food prices going up. We see the crime. Education needs to be reformed in Jamaica. So the question becomes, how do you prioritize these things that the normal working blue collar, as we call it here, don't really care about it, right? They care about putting food on the table, right? And I think the Jamaican government should be thinking about those, table stake issues that matters to the people. Versus, I think, Lester said, these intellectuals who are debating these things that don't have to look at the price of gas. So those are the things that I think should be prioritized over this.
Let's just look at this. I need to go into will reparations become a reality. But I received a video, and I want you guys to look at this video and tell me if it is true or it is fake or somebody tried to pull a fast one. And tell me what you see in this video. Here we go. You see, you see that is doctor. what I'm trying to put right there now is I think that is a like total distraction. Lester, do you guys have a view on that bit there? I don't know, but it's a big thing over here in the UK that Lisa snubbed Kate. It's in
Um,
the major newspapers and so like that.
it's a big thing in the British media. I don't think it's a big thing in the British society. Um,
Virgin, the
no,
society, listen, the media over here lead people. That's why most everybody went crazy with COVID. The media, people believe in
yeah,
the media over here, bro. I'm
yeah,
telling you, yeah.
I know. Just like the United States, too. Them, anyway.
As people don't believe in
Um,
that media.
the anybody who carries that notion or that wording or that thinking that Lisa Hanna snubbed the Duchess is stupid. Why would she turn up? Lisa Anna turned up at the airport on the tarmac to meet her. The biggest snub with she getting an invite and not turn up,
They were
you
I
know?
laughing
agree.
and talking before that clip, by the way.
I agree.
Exactly. And if you look at the video, so it seems like they were both looking at something in the same direction. Kate
Exactly.
looked first, and then Lisa turned and looked. To me, that's just a bigger picture and common sense to say they were looking at something.
Anyway,
You see what I'm trying to show, because even like someone who sent it to me a while ago, and I said to the person, that's doctor, bro. And that is a taking that context out, you know, because but I'm just, this is how you see,
all right,
But
this is what I'm saying,
Silver,
guys.
oh, sorry, go ahead, Jody.
No, I'm saying that we're doing the same thing that everybody else is doing, and quite frankly, I think it's pointless. We're trying to analyze this whole video, which is taking away from the real issues. And I don't really think we need to be paying attention to all of this because it's just a lot of foolishness. In my opinion, I might be wrong, but it's just a lot of foolishness. I don't think it needs to be debated. I think we need to look at the real issues, see how we can impact the real issues, and discuss that. We're
Agreed.
just doing the same thing the
Agreed.
media is doing. We're doing the same
Totally
thing.
agreed.
yes, but
Yeah,
we sometimes have to sort
but
of
but
pull the
it's
media out
Silver,
at the same time. Yeah,
Silver.
in the UK, I'm talking.
Many
Yeah,
many Jamaicans, this not this side, in the Americas,
yes,
when and they have reached out to me and they have shown me some screenshots where persons have like said, how do you feel about the royals visiting Jamaica? And people are like, the royals are visiting Jamaica. They don't care. People are not putting this issue on their heads to say it is of utmost importance. Um, again, the warm reception that
yeah.
the royals get, continuously get,
Mm.
right? In Jamaica, whenever they came, whenever they come, they visit, right? Is of the highest magnitude.
Mm.
Highest. We have seen photos rolling out where our most elite and upper class have rolled out to King's House for the dinner. So I don't see why people are making this an issue.
Yeah. You see, what has happened here, because I remember years ago when I first came to the UK and before we got the visa restrictions, and I remember we're going to the Jamaica High Commission and some diplomats was there talking about why they're implementing the visa because of cocaine and marijuana was coming to the UK. And I remember a guy named Jeff Edwards, never forget the name, from the Mirror, called Air Jamaica cocaine air, big in the papers. And I remember a few of us, we wrote to the Press Complaint Commission to say it was a bit racist or something of that nature. And, why I say that is because the press have to be pulled up at the same time because in many different respects, just, sometimes we can allow things to slide, but it's when you're in the UK and you see these sort of things, you can see what they're actually doing. And sometimes if you let it slide, it builds up. And you see, there's a recent case of this little girl named Child Q. Child Q was violated by a police, searched her. She's 15 years of age, stripped naked because she smelled of marijuana. She smelled of marijuana, stripped naked. The school also searched her. And right now there's a big thing, and they found out that lots of black children have been searched. And they're talking about some who have been searched in police station and some who have been even searched at school. And sometimes the media try to belittle it and say, because, and this is the word they use, adultified. Black children are adultified because they're more street. So you see, if you allow these things to get in and you don't address it, it becomes bigger. And then our same children will say to us, how did you allow that to happen on your watch?
Wilburn, even with the prison system in the United Kingdom, there was a media report a few years ago that like Jamaicans are overrunning the prisons in the UK. But when the actual report came out, is that the Polish people have far greater numbers in the British prison than the Jamaicans. The British people have greater numbers, but the media report, and there was one, I think Nigerians. So we were not how the media reported it as if the Jamaicans were the number one in terms of population in the British prisons, right? But the actuality is that you have several other countries that have higher number of persons in the British prison system more than Jamaicans. So it's as you said, it was groups of persons who said no, but this is not true, and they push back at it.
Yeah. But anyway, let's move on to this thing about the reparations, because a lot of persons talking about that. What do you think about reparations? Do you think it's become a reality, or is a pipe dream?
Well, before I go into that, Jody, Jody, that's a big up to Jody. Jody have the munchies. But anyways, let's move on.
Yeah.
Jody, you there?
Can't hear.
Okay. What are the situation? What we, and I'm going, when I said we black people need to let go. If we think that the queen gonna come, or the queen family gonna come and said, okay, my grandparents have enslaved your grandparents, so I'm gonna pay you for that. As we say in Jamaica, if I don't live to tell it, my world will come and tell me. We will never see that. It's not going to happen. So the person who's sitting down and thinking that let's fight for reparation and we need to get paid for being a slave, it's not going to happen. The Jews in America have gotten it. All the other have gotten it. We're not getting it. So what we need to do is wake up and go make our own, because it's not going to happen. It's like the saying that they said, don't sit and wait for somebody to come and help you. Nobody's coming. Do it for yourself. It's not going to happen.
So I think that the bit, and here's the thing that I always think about, and I'm going to use Barbados as an example. They call it the tale of two islands. If you look at Jamaica and Barbados at the time of independence, we have made some macroeconomics decision that have created this sort of the issues that we have. Barbados did, and I believe Barbados right now, their GDP per capita is 5 times that of Jamaica, and Jamaica has much more resources. So the question I've always is sort of a couple. One, who would get this, right? What form, and what's the amount? Because when I look at Singapore, for example, that was pretty much much more in a dire economic strait when they became an independence, and look at where they are. So the question then becomes, what's the process? And I'm with you, Vida. I don't see that becoming a reality. But we spend so much cycle talking about it. Vice is talking about the things that are important, right? And I'm one to say, okay, who's gonna pay, right? Is it corporation that benefits from it? What's the process you're going to put in place to go do that? Because we've been talking about this for 60 years, right? And it takes up a lot of cycle. And I think there's a lot of people that think that with this repatriation, guess what? It's going to solve every ills that we as Jamaicans have gone through. right?
Yeah.
But when you look at the issues that plague Jamaican today, has nothing to do with that, right? Nothing to do that. We're what? I might get it wrong. We're probably many generations removed from slavery in Jamaica. Many generations removed from that.
That's not true, O'Neill.
So there were slaves in Jamaica in 1962.
O'Neill, I'm not. I am not many generations removed. My grandmother was born 1901. Her mother was a slave.
What I'm saying, Lester, when I said, look, generations could mean 2 generations. My great grandmother, yes, was a slave, but that's 5 generations. That doesn't mean that what I just said is incorrect. I am many generations removed. I'm 46 years old.
Okay.
Right? I didn't grow up, my grandmother did not grow up in slavery. Her grandmother did. Right? But my point is, my grandmother has made the sacrifice for me and my dad and everybody to get where I'm at today. So that is where I'm trying to go to say, what does it give to us? Right? Jamaican, there's a saying in Jamaican don't like handout. We were never been a handout society.
I think the question is this, and I believe in this process, which is called parallel thinking, parallel planning, parallel action. Mean to say that one should live as if one don't get it.
There you go.
One should operate as if they don't get it, and if you get it, it's an added bonus. But if you live your life hoping for this funds, because there are some British persons who are saying recently, I think some politicians was talking about over the years, Britain has contributed to the Caribbean, and they were laying out some figures. And of those figures that they were laying out, they were saying that these are part of an indirect reparation in a way. And Marlon Barkley even sort of said something. This is what he said. As it relates to reparation, they started when David Cameron apologized. I do not want the reparation in form of cash being given, but in actions by building our infrastructure to world-class standards. And that's what that politician was actually alluding to, that they have contributed to the Caribbean in different ways. I'm just being a conduit here.
I have a question.
Let me
Go
ask.
ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Vita.
So I have a question. A friend of mine brought a point to me that like the Rastafarians, and they worship Haile Selassie. What do they want from the Queen?
Hold on. The Rastafarian don't worship Haile Selassie. Haile Selassie to them is a prophet. Let's that be clear. They don't worship.
True. That's not true, because certain sections of Rastafari do worship Haile Selassie as God.
So go look at it. It's just they see it. Again, if you go back,
it's not. I didn't want to bring up a
no, but Vita, that's important because I have family members who are Rastafarians, right? So they don't worship Haile Selassie as God; they see Haile Selassie as a prophet.
But most of us see Jesus as a prophet, and we worship. Well, not me. We worship the white Jesus. So But I don't want to go into that part. I don't want to go into. But that was just.
Anybody wants to hear my question?
Yes, Jody, go ahead.
All right. So if we're paid reparation, that same word today, right?
Money.
I'm not get my tongue twisted. I'm eating cheese sticks and a mixture of something here, so anything is possible. All right. So my question is, what do we do with this money? Who benefits from it, right? Who does the money go to? Who gets this money? Because it's not like they're going to find individual families and go in an archive and find all their descendants and pay them. So I'm sure the government of Jamaica would be the one receiving this money, and then they're going to dictate to us how the money is going to be spent. There is going to be no democracy in who gets what, right? It's going to be the government who decides what programs they're going to fund with this reparation, and everything else. It's not going to benefit every single Jamaican individually. So that's the reality of something we should also look at, even if it is paid, right? So as I was saying before, or I think it was Neil who was saying that, oh, quite frankly, we are a set of people who don't like to take a handout. So stressing this reparation is like, I don't know, more talk and babble.
Which people
More talk
don't
and babble.
I did put up Amir Roots Rock, where he said we're not asking for handouts, we are the builders of the British Empire.
Which people don't like Anjo? We're talking about Jamaicans.
Jody, which people you say don't like handouts?
We're talking about Jamaicans.
I was just referring to what O'Neill said.
Yeah.
Which
I
people
was
don't
referring.
like
You notice I said
no.
based on what Vita said, and then based on what O'Neill said. I never said that was a fact. I was just stating it based on what O'Neill said and based on what Vita said. So I am saying that
are you no one to know Vita? Vita and I are asking the same question. Which set of people who say don't want handout, don't like handout?
Ask O'Neill. I was just referring to what O'Neill said. So ask O'Neill.
Put it to O'Neill.
I was just referencing. I was referencing. Talk to O'Neill.
All right, O'Neill, let's ask the question. O'Neill, which people you're talking about don't like handout? Jamaicans?
It's not every, no, don't put every Jamaican in a box now. There's a lot of people in Jamaica that don't like.
Are the Jamaicans in the Queens you talk O'Neill?
Hey, Lester, you can imagine. Lester, listen to this. You can imagine if we get the money there during election year.
So here, Jody, you know who we're gonna get it? I see a new Lamborghini up at Jack's Hill. It just go back to it's a topic that I just never understand, and I don't try to put a lot of stock into it at all, because to the point you make, Jody, who's gonna get it? What's the process? I believe slavery was abolished in Jamaica in 1808 or 1834. I don't remember.
1834.
Right. So if that's the case, do you go back and trace the descendants from then? Do you give it to the Maroons? Right?
No. Come
on. Saying who gets it? Who gets it?
The Maroons. You give it to the Maroons.
Let's see what Vita says. Vita.
Let's step back a moment.
Not funny, O'Neill.
When slavery was abolished, right? The Queen, they paid the slave owners because they were losing because they no longer have slaves. So the slave owners, the slave traders were paid.
I said give it to Chief Curry.
Hey, can't give it to anybody who they need, because I'm gonna get double whopper. I'm gonna get from Jamaica and I'm gonna get from America. So
you know what I think would be really good. Jamaica present through the UDC owns so many lands. I think there's so many lands in Jamaica which is owned by the crown, i.e. government. Let's say you're screwing up your face. Help me out if I'm going wrong.
Because it's through the UDC.
When I say UDC, the UDC is the Urban Development Commission that sort of regulate lands, isn't it? Am I correct?
I know what the UDC is. It was created by Edward Philip George Siaga.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Silver. Go ahead.
Well, I touched on his.
I understand what he's saying.
I touched into airways an authority figure.
Yes, and he's very knowledgeable.
Yes.
He's very knowledgeable on that part. But go ahead as far as you're talking about the land.
The point I'm trying to say is that lands, if anything, should be, distributed to people within Jamaica. One of the things I always think about.
That would be an approach I would agree to.
I think even community lands should be allocated to communities, for people to do farming and all those. I know Pretty Larson is there, but I believe there's so much ways how governments can actually be a part in the so-called reparation process. Maybe we have to look at reparation in a different way, in a more creative way at the same time, because I believe governments in the Caribbean, when the Queen left or whatever like that, even though we're still, we were independent in 1962, I mean, aren't we independent? Why are we still having the Queen anyway? I don't know what happened there. But they actually transferred responsibility to the Governor General and the government, right? The same lands. And Chief Curry of all these different lands up there, where they should be allocating these things to our people and then giving them a foothold with lands.
Or have a similar approach to what I think it's Singapore. 91% of their entire landscape is owned by the people. Give the people of the land the ownership.
All right. And this is something that I want to touch on. If Madam Queenie thinks about it fitting and give it the money, it can be a possibility that majority Jamaicans benefit through cash, through education, through land and infrastructure development, right? So let us take the infrastructure development first and foremost, where we can upgrade schools. We in terms of where a lot of schools don't have computer labs. A lot of schools don't there are a lot of things that schools don't have that we can use that money to do. So we can bring up certain schools who are not at the same level as a JC or a Immaculate. We can bring up those schools in terms of.
I went to Edwin Allen. They're not the same as a Immaculate. They're better.
No, those are the people who don't get handouts. Those are the people. Those are the rich people in Jamaica.
Vita, it is appalling, Vita, that he would really put Edwin Allen in the high class that Immaculate is in.
It's not about class. Look at where I start. Look at where I end up. As Colin Powell would say, I graduated with 2.6.
Yeah, but that doesn't do with Edwin Allen. That's what do with
what Edwin Allen gave me the baseline. So that's the best school in Jamaica.
All right.
I'm thinking though, guys. And I think this evening my combination is making me a little bit more serious because I'm here, right? And there are real situations here that needs to be dealt with. And I guess because I'm not drinking any alcohol this evening, Vito, I'm a little bit more sober. Yeah. I can see the light.
But I can also see on the munchies too, so we're good.
After you finish, Jody, I'll wait till you finish.
Yeah, my thing is this, right? I think when it comes on to dealing with the infrastructures, Lester, it has to be more of where our country is going, and I'm hearing less of that lately. And I'm hearing the same old stories, and it's becoming annoying to me because I'm thinking that post-COVID, we would have opened our eyes to some things to move us from what we were used to versus where we're going in the future, right? We are facing a lot of issues right now in Jamaica, and I am on the ground and I am seeing it every single day, and I'm concerned that our government is acting in retrospect to what's happening. So it's more like, oh, the problem comes up, let's do this. Something happens, let's do this. And it's concerning me because yes, there is an overall plan that they presented to us and we're hearing the overall plan, but we want to know what is the action plan? How are we going to get there? And, put things in place. Like, for example, I am deeply concerned, and I think I said this to Silburn earlier this week. I'm deeply concerned about the mental health of Jamaicans right now, based on everything that we see going on. I'm concerned about the mental health of our children. I spoke to a number of parents, some of them, openly, shared their comments on social media in the last 2 weeks about how overwhelming the system has been for the children since they went back to school. And my biggest concern is their mental health. I am yet to hear of, and I've been asking around, a school that took the children for at least 2 weeks after going back to school and provide counseling and provide unwinding sessions and provided a situation where the children were allowed to verbalize what they've been through during lockdown before actually going straight back into the schoolwork, which is now killing them. If my kids say they want a break now, honestly, I'm giving them a break, because it's been like, it's worse than you going on a farm and working every single day without eating, without taking a break. It is exhausting. If it's exhausting for the parents, can you imagine how exhausting it is for the children? And that's why when I see the videos of the violence and I hear what the children are doing in school, and we see the videos and we see all these things that are happening, everybody's saying, oh, it pity them no grow up good, it come from a yard and it related to this. And it's like, no, you can't say that. You understand? I think about, I put it simply like this to a group of parents I was talking to this week, right? If you have a child who was being abused at home, right? And their escape was school. Their escape was school, going to school, whatever the level of abuse is, mentally, physically, emotionally. And
That's my sister, guys. My sister, another sister is here.
Oh, you brought on the entourage again.
Is mommy there this week? Right? And
my big sister, yeah. She's watching me. Keep an eye, making sure you guys don't.
No, I'm gonna let me drink up now so I can misbehave. Go on, Jody.
Sorry, Jody. My apologies.
And their escape was school, right? And they've been locked up in these situations, and their mental, emotional issues have not been dealt with. It is going to create a ripple effect. It's like being locked up for no reason at all. You don't know why you're being locked up, and then thrown back into a system where you're expected to function normally. That is not fair. And the other thing that I found was overwhelming too. You had these children on tablets every day, even though they had bookwork doing, as in terms of pencil and paper. And then you take them back to a classroom, you take away the screens, you took away their ability to respond to digital stuff, and then you bring them back to chalkboard. I cannot get that. It don't make no logical sense. So if I'm thinking that we're gonna do things to change how we're doing things, we have to change the mindset of how we are operating. And this is why I said it comes down to constitution. Even if we are to say, okay, we're gonna move away from the monarch, are we gonna operate under the same constitution? Are we gonna operate under the same law system, changing leaders for the sake of the changing leaders thing? What is our mindset? What is our vision? Where is our goal? Where are we going?
Okay, let me bring this. Let me bring this in a bit. Only let me hear for a second. When the Queen in 1962 and they transferred the power, it was a change of leadership, but it's the same process, right? And what I'm picking up again at the same time is when this change comes in again, from the Queen now to president or whatever, it might be the same thing, same sort of way of operation. Now, I want to just pick up a couple of things that have been said and what my sister said. I don't want to lose those. Jody, you sound like you found an opportunity within this crisis. I share your concern, and it's a great idea post-COVID, which is single enlightenment. You can hire me to come and teach personal resilience. Well said. Now, that's a part of reparation process. But what my sister said was something else about empty-headed leadership. And he said, guys, seriously, reparation, if calculated and managed externally by a company like, say, PwC, could fund and improve education system 20 years, including tertiary, strong fiduciary. Ali, what do you think about that? Because this is in your area as well. I mean, could the fund go through some sort of structure like how my sister said, PwC?
It could, but I want to address three things. One, if my history is right, after slavery, we have what we call the sharecroppers. I believe back then, the Jamaican slaveries decided to buy the land, versus I think here in the U.S. they were given land. Right? Someone could check my fact, but if I remember my history, there was a huge sharecropping process in Jamaica in terms of land. Jody, you bring up a great point about the mental health of our kids, and I separate that from governance. It's total different things in my head, because I think you're seeing it not just in Jamaica, you're seeing it across the world, right? Where you have all these kids who has to switch in 2 seconds, and you're rightly so. there are issues that most of these things are. Some of these kids were escaping, and school was their escape. Like, for example, in New York, a lot of these kids, they got their 3 meals from the school. So now the question becomes how you address that, right? So now we have gone back into school. I do believe parents has a role to play, but I will also say a lot of our parents don't have the resources to be able to do that. I know I've been blessed enough where I have the resources with my kids. I'm able to do things that help them get through that process. Now, I think the way we have to figure out how to do this, and I'm with you, Jody, in the sense that there should have been some sort of transition. And it seems like we're going back to the old way of doing things. And I don't know the reason why. And I'm going to theorize it has to do with resources, right? It has to do with how much money do these schools have to be able to provide for these kids and their mental health. I remember when I went to my little hole Edwin Allen, they did have a guidance counselor, right? I don't know if they have those systems in the school anymore, right? And
they do.
I do. You're right. And I do believe, to Silver and Sister, this is something that you could
from
Ocherius. Used to go to York Castle and Edwin Allen, not Immaculate. Not Immaculate. So I believe, Jody, this is something you could champion. I could hear the passion, right? And then this is where I think every parent in Jamaica is feeling it. They're seeing it from their kids. And I don't know what resources that the government, but, as we said, we're here to solve. The USAID and DFID out of the UK will provide funding in areas of mental health and well-being of our kids, right? So, and the last bit around, I don't have an opinion, Silver, on who would manage this fund. There's external entities that could manage it. I would say you could set up a sort of a board structure of some reputable folks across the Caribbean, and maybe the diaspora will play a role in here, where there's a committee that provide guidance on how this money and sort of put out to the populace.
Present, it can't work under the present system, right? Because the government not going to allow the disbursement of money to a white-owned company. Why would somebody suggest that a white-owned company distribute black people money for slave cruelty? Allow me to respond. Right?
But it's not the only white-owned company, by the way. Now it's not.
But it doesn't matter. We don't need an external company to do it, right? Because what we are saying is that we want Jamaica to be better, but we don't trust the government. So how the government will get better if we don't hold the government accountable to say, look here, we'll get this money, and the citizens of Jamaica are going to hold the government accountable to make sure that this money helps Jamaica. So if we're going to have an external, and I'm saying the two entities cannot operate in the same space, because the government of Jamaica is not going to allow an outside entity to be doing things in terms of the government space, because you need the blessings of the government to do it. So I don't see how it's going to work. It's just like when they suggested to the bauxite company in Clarendon or St. Catherine wanted to dam the whole Rio Kobe and Flatbridge area, and they want to pay for it. Michael Manley said, give me the money, let me do it. It hasn't been done, right? Because the government not going to allow certain type of projects to be handled in a private hands. Our laws have to reflect the change. It has to be mandatory that every child gets an education. So if I get this huge sum of money, it has to be poured into education. It has to be poured into upgrading of communities. The them react harshly and react this way because of the environment. The environment is harsh. The environment is very nasty. You have to have a shift in how them live, how them grow, how them socialize and everything. Education is not a must in Jamaica, right?
Yeah.
So we have to, the laws have to reflect how we move forward.
Well, one of the things that is coming up, and it's on Instagram as well, and Marie Johnson, 100% agreed with Jody. Schools, the whole system has been neglect of the mental health person of children and teachers. At present, the focus is solely on exams and why young people are struggling. One of the things that is coming out a lot is there are certain things I sense, Jody, and you guys may agree with me as well, that is in our hands that we can do now. And like the one about the mental health thing, because that is a crucial thing for the future. You know, a man can win. You guys have seen it. People have won millions jackpot, and within two tools, the money gone out of them hand just like that, because there's no plan, there's no structure. And I believe that Jamaica at this point and needs can actually start to do with things that is in their hands. Personally speaking, I see the reparation debate. I've seen it in the UK, and they're not all together. The different strands.
And I think,
Right.
Silborn, sorry, as you talk, there's actually a blueprint out there I think you could follow. You know, Germans did pay not only to Jewish, but, you know, all who were affected by the Holocaust. They did pay.
Yes.
And there was a committee, as I recall, when I read the article, that was set up to disperse this money. So there's blueprints out there.
Yeah.
In the U.S., I believe we paid money to the Japanese Americans that were interned. So there are blueprints out there, right?
Yeah.
So if there is appetite, you know, by the British government to do this, and in the U.S., you could follow a blueprint and
Yes.
ensure that the money is going to things that will drive upward mobility, such as education, you know, in Jamaica in terms of police and reform, things that will impact the day-to-day Jamaican lives.
So what
Because
we're
if you-
talking about-
I would like to add to that, O'Neill, is that, and I'm going to go back to what Jody has said, as far as with what happened during COVID and the mental health of the children. And we must remember that Jamaica and Ireland, 3 million people compared to America and other countries are facing the same thing, and they don't have the resources, or they do, but they're not allocated in the area that it needs the most, compared to Jamaica, who do not have that money, who do not have the resource. That's how I see it, as far as looking at the resources, as far as helping these people. Yes,
Vito,
something needs to be done. I work in a children's hospital, and we have seen the rise for mental health for children. And again, like with what Lester had said, is that when we see the trauma, children coming in and trauma situation, we also go out in the community and look at the homes and what's happening. Now we have to work with the parent. We have to work, because sometimes, again, with the children getting their meal from school, we as advocates have to go out there and work with the family outside of the hospital. Getting an education in the school is not just education. Getting mental health in the hospital or in the healthcare is not just helping the child. The home is very important. So it's more than just providing social worker for them. We provide social worker, we provide psychiatrists, we provide all this. But at the same time, when we go to the home, it's amazing. Sometimes the father is missing, the mother is missing. Sometimes the parents don't have the condition they're living is another situation. So there's many aspects to it when you look at helping these children. So it's a funding, and we and this panel can come to help. How can we help? How can we help these
Vito,
children? Yes.
just to hit on something you just said, right? It's a matter of, for me, it's when we talk about not having resources, it annoys me, because we find money when we need to find money. The amount of money that was being thrown around in all the wrong places during COVID, and I'm not even going to take that back, because there is evidence of it, right? When it comes about resources, I'm not even going to buy it, right? We have teachers in school, and just like how they can have these teachers in meetings on Zoom and have the students coming to class every 2 days or every 3 days, and then have the same teachers in meetings, train our teachers to deal with these issues and have them sit with our children in the classes and let the same teachers deal with the issues. It is easier if you know you have a class of 18 or how many more. Some schools have 30 and more, right? These teachers know their children individually, right?
Yeah.
If you say to them, okay, this is the plan we have in order to deal with our children, right? Teach the existing teachers that we have. We're not going to have enough guidance counselors. We're not going to have enough social workers. Jamaica is already short on social workers,
Yeah.
right? But if you get one social worker or one guidance counselor, train the rest of the teachers and said, okay, these are the things you must look out for. This is how you talk to the children if this happens, rather than wait on the situation where the child is breaking and we lose one child per class or two child per class every month. That is crazy.
You know, guys, as we wrap up, and thank you everybody for coming on tonight. I think what's come out to be the salient point and the most fundamental and profound point tonight is what Jody's talking about, our youths, our children. That is coming out more stronger to me than reparation. That is coming out more stronger to me than the visit of the royal. That is coming out more stronger to me than the need to remove the queen. But you know, at the end of the day, let that process follow through and go through with the removal of the queen. Let the government go ahead and do that, because I do believe, without a doubt, that ideological factors, symbolic things, and do change people perception. Not everybody is at the same level whereby, like I'll say, listen, I don't business about them people. I know what I want, and I'm come from Ochi, straight out of Ochi. I come from. I'm a big, no business about nobody.
What do people not take on though?
Ultra is born in St. Mary.
We not take on those.
My sister will
we not take on body now. We don't want nothing from nobody.
My sister will take. Let's just say straight out of it.
Kingston, Jamaica.
Don't let me show that picture there. Don't let me show that. Don't let me show the picture.
The last thing I'll say,
yes,
as I said, Jody, obviously you're passionate about it, but every teacher in Jamaica that I, sort of came across when I was there did every exact thing you just said. I don't know what picture is that. Did the exact same thing that you just said. I wouldn't be here today without one of my teachers. So I'm gonna put stamp on it. I don't know what we're showing, but
certainly,
what picture is where
No, let me finish first, and we'll explain to you later.
To me, resources, whether you want to agree or disagree, I think it comes down to resources. Behind the scenes, I'm doing a lot to help out with the resources for teachers in Jamaica. So, I talk to a lot of people in different schools. So, you and I should talk behind the scene, and I'll introduce you to a whole bunch of people there in Jamaica who their number one need is resourcing. And we're helping them providing counseling, guidance counseling remotely for kids in Jamaica. So I'm happy to take that offline with you. But the people that I'm talking to on a daily basis in Jamaica, the number one thing is helping us with resources.
Yes. Okay, I was corrected. It's not removal of the queen, bro. It's removal of the crown. Okay.
I'll be the king. I'll be the king.
There is a company, it's medical, and it's called CTEL, and it's a telemedicine. And right now we are working to give counseling to the children in Ukraine. And that might be they're giving telemedicine counseling to children in Ukraine. So maybe that another company you can reach out to if you're working behind the scene with that. It's called CTEL, and if you need me to introduce you to them, then I will. But they're doing a great job in bringing telemedicine across the world.
Fantastic. Well, guys, listen, it's after 12, and my time 12 o'clock. I know Jamaica time 7. You guys are. I think the time is going back. I don't know. Anil, is the time going back to your place?
My time is where I'm at is 2 a.m. in the morning.
8 o'clock, Anil, 8:06.
You don't know where I'm at, Vita. I could be somewhere. I could be in the Netherlands where it's like.
We don't know. Lester,
where are you? Lester, you're here.
I'm in Jamaica.
Oh, sorry, no, I didn't mute you. Sorry, my apologies. Sorry, yeah.
He mute you again.
No, I didn't mute him by choice this time.
He's in Jamaica.
I'm in Slovenia.
In Slovenia. That's muito obrigada to the no. That's
Don't bite your tongue.
I
Don't
mixed
bite
up my
your
Russian a bit. Like Jody,
Niet, that.
Yes. Grudna.
Anil, this is how we finish off on our talk and sip. And we show the places where we are from, and ladies and gentlemen,
Oh, he's the king.
Anil
Anil is the king now. Anil is the king. Anil is the king. I'm going to China.
You're going to China. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on Talking Tip tonight. And Instagram, what is happening is we sort of break out a bit because teddy bear.
Oh, I don't know what I did.
Yeah.
Lester, you're somebody's teddy bear.
Definitely.
Yeah. And man, you want Silver, you need med. What I'm saying, Silver, you need medicine. You need mud. What is mud? Silver, you need mud.
I think he first wants a med.
Must have made anyone. Yeah, man. You know. But listen, guys, on a serious note, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining tonight on Talk and Sip. And come back next week again. We look for different topics.
But Silver, one on the Silver. I realize that your speeches and flowing infiltrating your family onto the show, right? So I'm going to call my brother and sister them. We have to call our sister them. Only I don't know if you're only child only, but that's how I say cousin.
He do act like a squad brat. He do act like a squad brat.
In my mind, I'm the only child.
He do act that way.
You're the father of Wolf Fitness, so Jody can call her brother. You know.
Jody, do not have to respond.
I am not going to answer Lester at this point in time. My dad is completely nothing like you, sir.
No.
Shot fire.
Me proud of me is it? We have not fit in. Me proud of me.
I want the mic to drop. Oh yeah, there's a mic. Mic drop.
Is it?
but Jody, your 14 brother and sister them calling the king.
Oh Jesus, Lester, leave it alone.
Lester, I'll mute you. He's muted. Jody, he's muted. Jody, okay. Jody, say something, Jody. I can't leave it like that.
I am not going to say anything. I don't need to. As I said it already.
There you
Lester,
go.
my
Drop
dad
the
is not
mic.
like you.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Married to my mother, I'm the eldest of 3. Just letting you know.
Fake news, Lester. Fake news. Fake news, Lester. That's what Jody just said.
Fake,
You
fake.
mute him again.
All right, peeps.
Okay, guys. Take
Nice
care.
hanging, guys. Good to see you,
Okay,
Anil.
guys.
Good seeing you.
All right,
Let's
bye-bye.
Peace out. Anil, take care. Jody, Vita, thank you so much. Let's say, what are you drinking? Let's see. You didn't tell us what you're drinking.
America.
America. Okay, cool.
And rum cream.
You went to the movies?
No, tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. Okay. All right, listen. Thanks for again. Peace out. Take care of yourself, buddy. Cheers. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, wrapping up for good evening. Thank you so much for coming on. Those on Instagram, Strobs, Controversy. Marie John, you said, I recall speaking to teachers during the pandemic and they too found it hard, isolated for them on their own. I work in childcare mental health in the UK and witnessed the lack of care, all about exam results, the big performance. Yeah, that is something which is profound happening. Ladies and gentlemen, very good topic, very good discussion. The reparation debate continues. The removal of the crown as the head of state, the Queen at present. When the Queen dies, they say, "Long live the king." That's what's going to happen, and that's So we look forward to see the removal eventually. Matunda Bakula came on tonight, and he said out very eloquently all the different things that need to be done. I need a 2/3 majority in the two houses, then take it back to the people for a referendum, and the process will be effected. However, what type of republic do we need? That's a big question. What type of republic Jamaica need? Right? Is it going to be a ceremonial one, something like what Barbados have? UIC President Joseph Patterson, when he came on my show, he said that's sort of fake republic. That was his way of putting it. Maybe a better word or worse word or so. And but we need something to be tangible. Tangible. The question that I put as well at times is, do we have to still follow the same system? Jodie put it very eloquently when she set out, do we need to set that same system? Can't we create something for ourselves? If we are now to be independent, if we are now to be setting the pathway for the future of ourselves and our generation to come, then can't we create it? Because we are independent. Yes, definitely, we are operating within this world where systems are, we engage with each other, interface, but can't we create something unique and special to us and for Jamaica? I think it is good at the same time that the Prime Minister was able to address Prince William and Kate in that format, because I believe at times Jamaicans and people need to see. I remember sometime in the House of Commons when some MPs, I forget what's his name, from Northern Ireland, Reverend Paisley, when he was removed from the House of Commons, he said that I have to come here and speak because my constituents want me to speak. And he said the Prime Minister is a liar or something like that, pants on fire. And another MP also said that. Don Butler of Jamaican Heritage also said that. But what they felt that it was their mandate to speak up for their constituents. You understand what I'm trying to say? Speak up for their constituents amidst the after effect or whatever like that. So they need for strong leaders at this time. Okay? Powerful. But the most important thing which I took off from today is what Jody said about the mental health of the youth, young people, going back to school. Wasn't on the topic, but I believe in a way that a reparation which would be good is how we can actually know the past, know the present, and somehow try to effect the change to make it better for our people. And also I believe in parallel action. As a child care lawyer, when children are removed from parents, you can either rehabilitate extended family members, depending on their age, adoption, long-term foster care. So there's parallel plan. You can't go one way, because if everything fails, the time scale for that child within the 40 weeks to become having a level of permanence might fail. So I believe for Jamaica, and anyone wanting reparation, and anyone wanting a republic, operate as if, what if it doesn't come? You can still be successful and to live a life to the fullest. That's what I say. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tonight, and have a good one, and God bless you until next week. Boom.